Hello and welcome. Today we've got General Michael Flynn, and today we are going to be talking about the current latest political updates and the Flynn movie that's coming out. You want to go to flynnmovie.com. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my daily newsreels. General Michael Flynn, thank you so much for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Thanks, Nicholas, and thanks very much. And to your audience, your great audience, I really appreciate their time. What we've been doing is we have been going around the nation. We're doing a 35-city premiere, live in-person premiere experience of the film, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. And I appreciate you highlighting the website, flynnmovie.com. We remain number one on Amazon of all DVDs, which is amazing. This is now going actually into the fourth week that we've been number one. So that's a tribute to your audience and audiences around the country that are really starving for the truth. And in the movie, it's mind blowing. I think people, their expectations coming in, I think their expectations going out. In fact, I know based on the testimonials that we've gotten from people that have come to at least 8 of the viewings now, we've had roughly, I think around 3,000 people that have attended in the first 8 cities. Tonight we have another 400 or 500 here in Las Vegas. We go from Las Vegas tomorrow to Santa Barbara, California. I think we have about 400 or 500 in Santa Barbara. So we're really seeing a real outpouring of love and support by the American people to watch this film. And I think that's it's really perfect timing. I mean, there's so much going on. I do want to spend a little bit of time with you, Nicholas, talking about some of the things that are going on domestically and, of course, overseas, because we're in a real trick right now, not just the United States, but the world. So the movie highlights people like, we have Tucker Carlson plays a prominent role, Devin Nunes, Lee Smith, a couple of other key journalists, Tracy Diaz, who's an investigative journalist, some real national security experts, but primarily, and probably half of the film are members of my family. Most people don't know I have 9 brothers and sisters. So about 6 of my family are in the film, and they're really powerful testimonials in the film. And I think who a lot of people will be introduced to is my wife, and her and I have been together for a long, long time. In fact, we've been together since we were 13 years old. So the persecution that I faced, and I'll get off my soapbox here and turn it back to you, Nicholas, but the persecution that I faced and the people that I were up against, I do talk about, darn near every one of them in this film. So it's not just this esoteric, and it's not a vindictive film. It's a very heart-wrenching film about corruption, deep-seated corruption that goes way back in our government, in the United States government. And it tells a story about how deep this corruption actually goes and what we need to do about it. It's really a story of survival, and it ends with a story of inspiration and hope for where America needs to be. And like we say, to a degree, partially in the movie, if the Flynns can drive this, defeat this evil and drive this darkness out, then America can do the same thing, because we are in a period of time where America is clearly off the rails. It's undeniable. And the movie really highlights a lot of that, but also highlights how do we fight back? How do we stand our ground? And it's like this T-shirt. I didn't realize, I got my T-shirt on, Fight Like a Flynn, right? So anyway, that's kind of where we are. And people go to flynnmovie.com. They can purchase it on DVD, or they can purchase it on live streaming. I think we now have on the website, you can pre-order the live streaming rental, but you can actually order the live streaming to own. And then, of course, all kinds of other stuff. So I have a great team that we're traveling around the country. I'm doing all of this. We're literally driving. I'm sitting right now. If people recognize it, I'm sitting in an RV. This is the RV that we are driving around the country in. We have a couple of other vehicles, of course, with logistics and security. It's necessary to have security. We had an incident here last night in Las Vegas, not directed against us, but it's a car drove into a group of people, unbeknownst to us. But it's under investigation. They really don't know what happened, but a lot of people were injured by a car maybe it was a drunk driver, maybe it was something else, but we are in a period of heightened alert, as the current director of the FBI has warned us. And that heightened alert is clearly something that we're paying very close attention to as we drive around the country. And we just pray that we don't run into any problems. So
Absolutely.
Appreciate you having me on today, Nicholas.
No, you're very welcome, and you've got all my support. To support everything you're doing. I've watched some of your teasers, and they're very interesting. I think the production is very, very good. It's definitely something I can't wait to sit down and watch and share with my friends and family. Now, clearly, you're a man of God. You're a patriot, and you are a big threat to the deep state. Just like Donald Trump is, and many other more. And this is a great thing, because we're fighting evil. And if America falls, the whole world falls. And this is why I, from the UK, have taken an active interest into getting involved from a local level in journalism. And this is why I'm interested in American politics. So I've watched the teasers, and I find it very interesting. And what highlights do you think that the American people and people all over the world watching this are going to see, that are going to be shocked to learn for the first time that they've never seen before in the movie?
Yeah, they are going to see when the coup began. They'll be told exactly how the coup began and why it began. And they'll also gain some insight into some of the internal discussions to the White House under Donald Trump that I was involved in. So I am going to share some very, things that I've never spoken about. I've never even written about them. I write a lot. I've written 8 books. I've never written. I've write a lot of articles. I've never talked about these things or written about them. So people are going to see and hear some things that were internal to the White House communications that transpired around me and my situation. So that means people around Donald Trump, as well as the situation under the Barack Obama administration. And they're also going to find, I think, and this is really the intimate part of my family. They're going to see things and hear things from members of my family that nobody's ever heard. And they're powerful. It's not just, a family member saying, woe is Mike, woe is my brother Mike. It's actually family members, because my family, when you see this movie, you're going to realize, holy crap, this family really has their act together, and they clearly understood what they were up against, and they never backed down from, their brother Mike. I mean, I'm one of 9 brothers and sisters, right? So the level of discourse in the movie that my family offers to the audience is really powerful. It's very powerful. And I think that's one of the big themes to walk away from this movie with. And that is that, geez, man, this Flynn family, and that's why we use the phrase fight like a Flynn. We use it, specifically because we will, inside of our house, we'll kill each other, but outside of our house, we're going to take on the world. We're willing and ready to take on the world. And when the government picked on us, and my sister Barbara really says it really, really well, how when they decided that they were going to take on our family, then, they messed with the wrong family. And I'll leave that teaser like that, because it's a very powerful statement that, despite having great commentary from Tucker Carlson or Devin Nunes or Lee Smith, who's a national best-selling author, my family really, I think, comes across in an extraordinary fashion. And I think it places the audience inside of their own families. Would they do these same things? Do you have the family? Do you have the strength of family, the strength of friends, the strength of your community to be able to stand against this evil that we are facing? And this evil that we're facing is an overbearing, tyrannical, corrupt government. All of that is talked about in our government or in the movie. And I take people back to the 60s to kind of start the movie, to set the foundation. I talk about warfare, and I talk about the kind of warfare that we have seen, but I also talk about revisiting the past, because if we don't revisit the past and understand how those things occurred, we can't understand what is happening right now. Last thing from my standpoint on this point, Nicholas, is that all of the people that are involved, that were involved going after me, they're the same people going after Donald J. Trump right now. Nobody has yet to be held accountable. And that's another reason why they fear Trump and they fear me. Because we're two people that, despite what names they call us, we're two guys. And, to a degree, there's parts of us that are cut from the same cloth. There are other parts of us that are not. I'm not in that, I didn't have that kind of an upbringing, but what upbringing I did have gave me a toughness, gave my family a toughness, gave him a toughness to never quit. And there's an incorruptibility. So they'll call Trump all kinds of names and they'll call me all kinds of names, but they know that there's an incorruptibility because, like Trump, he gave up everything. It's from the movie. You're going to see what I was willing to give up. And in fact, I gave up, I about gave up everything. And that what they want, they being this deep state apparatus in Washington, D.C., places like Washington, but that exist globally, they want to be able to hand you, power and wealth and tell you, here, you'll have all these things, right? You'll have all these things, but you have to do our bidding. And I'm just not one of those guys. Donald Trump is not one of those guys. And I think that's an important message that comes out of this film as well.
No, absolutely. And especially when you stand in your truth and you're vibrating at a high level and you're aligned with God, I think you're very protected, especially when you're in service to humanity. Now, the deep state they fear you and they have said, that you're a very dangerous person to hire to Donald Trump, which was one of the teasers that I saw. Would you like to explain why that is? Is it because they're afraid that you and Donald Trump and many other insiders are together helping on this 5-dimensional chess game to take down the deep state, over a course of period of time?
Yeah, I explain that. I go into fair detail about some of the things that I was looking into, and they knew I was going to look into them. So this is before Obama had that very famous, transition of the entire government with Donald Trump. Before he had that very famous conversation to, you need to be aware and afraid of two people. One, Kim Jong-un, and the other is Mike Flynn. Recommended that he not hire me. So they knew what I was already talking about doing. Once I was put into that position as national security advisor, I started to execute. I started to do it. And I'll leave it at that because it's a really important part of the film to understand what was just one of the elements that I was looking into. And when I think you hear me describe that, it's a very powerful message of, wow, how, so what Flynn was looking into, what was it that was so corrupt? And what could he have exposed? And trust me, that's why they had to get rid of me right away. They felt so threatened. And one thing that I would mention here, because you touched on it there in your question and the previous one that I forgot to highlight. Evil attacks strength. Okay, evil doesn't attack weakness. Weakness is easy to overcome, right? Weakness is easy to if there's a dark force, if there's the devil, let's just say there's a dark force, the dark force is able to grab hold of those weak beings out there, and they become part of their realm, right? And a lot of people that are in Washington, D.C., we call it the Uniparty in our book, the fifth generation warfare. So what evil does though is they go after the strong, because if they can defeat the strong, and they can show that they're defeating the strong, then the weak become even weaker. So the real strong evil forces that we're up against, like those that are at that sort of equal level that I'm at, that Trump is at, this national and international figures, they will always come after us. They'll use everything in their toolbox to be able to attack us. They'll use the media, they'll use Hollywood, they'll use publishing houses, They'll use politicians, both sides of the aisle. They'll use anybody they can to attack. So if I'm the most Googled name in the world for 2 years, which I was, only a few years ago, it was not because they were being kind to me. They were calling me every single name in the book to try to minimize what I was able to do, to try to basically drive me down to a place where I could never recover from. And sadly, they, like I said, not just me and the threshold of pain that I'm able to exert, but also my entire family. And I found faith in my family, and I found strength in my family to be able to even have a higher threshold of pain. But I want people to understand, evil doesn't attack weakness. The weak they succumb early on in this spiritual war that we are in. Evil goes after strength. They are so desperately after Donald J. Trump. They do not want him in the White House again. They do not want a guy like me back in any kind of administration, in any level, because they know that I know where to look, right? Where the bodies are buried. That's a metaphor for knowing how, where all the deeply held, deep-seated corruption actually exists. You don't run one of the largest intel agencies in the world or become national security advisor without having some understanding of where these things are at. And I tried my best while I was in uniform, but I was pushed out. And I was pushed out, and I described that in the movie as well. I was pushed out for interesting reasons, and I'll tease that out there to cause people to go see the movie. We're here in Las Vegas tonight, and people go to flynnmovie.com and purchase tickets for the event if this gets broadcast today. And I'm there the whole time. I'm there from the beginning to the end. I stand here and take photos. I talk to people. I love people. People need to know this story. They need to know this story because this is a seminal moment in the history of the world, not just in the history of the United States. When they were able to get rid of me, and they used people inside the White House as much as outside, they changed the course of history. And I mean that.
Absolutely. No, definitely. Now, do you believe that at some point in the future we will see some kind of justice, and also will the people know everything entirely, what's happened, how much we've been lied to, how much we've been enslaved? Do you think at some point in the future this will all come out for the people to see of the world?
Yeah, I don't think that it's all going to come out at some point. I mean, I think people know that we have not, that these people have not been held accountable. That's clear. Everybody that I see every day, every time I'm on one of these podcasts, I'm on in any kind of audience. I do Q&A all the time. I like I said, I love people. I interact with people all the time, and they always ask me that same question: will these people be held accountable? And I tell them that, I don't know. I don't believe that we're going to see all these people held accountable. I think that the people that need to be held accountable, there's so many of them. I don't think that they're all going to be held accountable. That doesn't mean that we don't give up going after their, accounting for them and doing that kind of thing. I think that that's really important that we still do that. I do believe that where they will be held accountable, they will be held accountable at the gates of hell. And if they submit, to God Almighty, then maybe they can find room. Maybe, there'll be room in purgatory, and somebody can pray for their soul. But otherwise, these are dark-hearted people. These are soulless people, and they are very crooked, and in some cases, criminals. And they've committed crimes. They've committed the crime of treason. They've committed the crime of subversion against the state, and they know it. They know it. They won't admit it. They won't admit it. As Andy McCabe the other day, who I do highlight in the movie, a former deputy director and then acting director of the FBI, said just recently, literally less than a week ago, that it was regrettable the actions that he took to get warrants on people like Carter Page, which they used to get warrants on me, and Donald Trump to spy on his campaign. So, the gates of hell will be wide open for these people when they arrive, and they will arrive there because they, unless they reform and find God. But when they find God, God is also going to be, in my belief system, God is also going to say, you're going to need to be held accountable for your actions while on earth, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can submit to those that feel you need to be held accountable, that's good. The American people are very, very forgiving. I'm very forgiving, I will be very forgiving. Otherwise, I'd be a very vindictive, hateful, scornful person for all the bullshit that I went through, Nicholas. I'm sorry for my Irish, but I'm not. I don't do things out of hate. I do things out of love, and principally love of my family and love of my country. But I do believe that there is I do believe in hell. I do believe that there is a hell, and there can be hell on earth. And I believe Andy McCabe's statements the other day that he made on a cable news network. I do believe that he is starting to feel the pangs of hell. He is starting to feel guilty, and because he said it, he said it was regrettable. So, but that's not enough, Andy. If you're watching, if you're listening, that's not enough. You need to be held to account for the American people, and you have not said you're sorry. So if it's regrettable, how about at least apologizing publicly to all the families that you destroyed, and to Donald J. Trump for undermining not only him as the president, but for undermining the presidency of the United States of America. That's what he did. And there were others around him that enabled him to do that. Comey, Brennan, Strzok, all of them, Page, all of them that were part of that. Clapper, Susan Rice, Sally Yates, and then of course, Biden and Obama themselves. So they all knew this was going on.
Absolutely. Now, are you confident that we will see Donald Trump as the president of the United States, the 47th?
Yeah, I'm confident that if we have a free and fair election, that Donald Trump, hands down, will win, and he should win all 50 states. He should win every single one of the electoral college votes. That's if we have a free and fair election. And I just, I have to bite my lip when I say that, because I just feel like there's so much of our election system is still broken. It's broken. I mean, there's all kinds of cases out there that have already been proven that have been fraudulent, and people are in jail because of some of these fraudulent cases. And that's on both sides. There was a case in Georgia, probably a year and a half ago, where the people, they had to overturn the Democratic election. There was one up in New York for a Republican member of Congress. She had to fight and she fought the machines, right? So it's not just the machines and mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting. It's the whole system. And we do have some mending to do, but people need to understand that they have to get out and vote. You can't sit this one out. This is the most historically consequential vote that the United States of America has ever gone through. And if we're going to continue to be that true North Star, beacon of light, shining city on a hill moniker, we're going to maintain those monikers, then people got to get out and participate as citizens of this beautiful experiment in democracy called the constitutional republic. If you don't, I don't want to hear any complaining. If you don't get out there and vote. Now, I will tell you, we have a lot of people who are registered to vote who don't vote. Like 35% of the voting populace in this country typically don't vote in a general election for president of the United States. That's the norm. That's the averages, right? So that means 65% or less vote for president. We can't have that. We can't have that. If we want to beat the system, we want to win the day, we got to get out and vote. We got to vote in droves.
Absolutely. Now, we've had plenty of time now, and there's been a lot of fraud, even in the 2016 election. They didn't rig it enough. Trump won really far. And then now we see Biden. He has more votes than Obama, which is ridiculous. So what precautions have you guys taken to ensure that there's going to be no election fraud moving into 2024 November?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking me what precautions have I taken? I haven't, taken any precautions at the state or county level other than telling people, I use this phrase, Nicholas, local action equals a national impact. And what that means is that it is now time for every American who believes in his country. And I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I don't care if you're a libertarian. If you believe in the American ideals and principles that have held fast for, 240 plus years and still believe in basic human rights and basic freedoms, then you've got to participate in this country's electoral system. and may the best person win. May the best man or woman win. I like I said, I care less about what party people are in. I really, really do. I do think that the Democrat Party has been undermined and taken over by a very hardcore leftist leaning, and meaning socialist, Marxist, communist body of people, and most of those are holding the levers of power. But they're a small minority. If you're in that other patch of people, most people want this country to remain, a beautiful experiment, which is what it really is. I mean, that's kind of what our founders created. They experimented with this thing. They created the Constitution. They put it together beautiful, and they said, go forth and do good. And we've made all kinds of adjustments over the years that we've been in existence. But now it's under attack frankly, by a very hardcore left-leaning socialist Marxist body of people. And I've been called all kinds of names. One of them is fascist. People don't understand what a fascist is. Okay. The fascist isn't, they equate fascism to the Nazis. The Nazis were they were the socialist party. Okay. So they had elements of socialism, they had radicals in them. Okay. I'm not a radical. I'm just a regular guy who rose to the levels that I rose to because of hard work and determination and discipline. And frankly, and like I said earlier in an earlier segment here, that, I have a sort of not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm not going to say I'm any of that, but I have I would like to think that I'm incorruptible. What drives me is the value of our country. What drives me is the beauty and the greatness of America. That's what drives me, not people giving me money or doing this or doing that, or giving me power. Power corrupts, right? And that's what we see in Washington, D.C., in our politicians and in our deep state bureaucrats and other columns that we fight against. Corporatocracy is one. The institutions of government, frankly, the Chinese infiltration into our society and into our culture, all of that, right? All of that. So anyway, I know I'm gonna have to go here in a second. What final things you got for me?
Well, one more was two more questions actually. One of them was, what would your active role be when Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States again?
Well, I think right now I'm not going to worry about that, and I think it's we have to get sort of one game at a time, right? Before we get into the Super Bowl, we've got to prepare to win the next game, and to win the next game, people have got to get involved in their communities. They got to go register. They got to get out. They got to I'm pro Trump. I'm for Trump being the next president. Even though I say this is about America, if America could go away. America could go away, and if we go away, then we don't have that beacon of hope anymore. And so I just think that people have to prepare for each game that we're playing, right? And then for the big game, which is November of this year, and get out there, canvass, make sure there's not like registered people in some empty building, right? Let's make sure there's not a parking lot that has 200 people registered to vote that live on this parking lot. That's what we found in the 2020 election, right? I mean, we found houses that could only fit like a family of 4, had a family of like 100. There are places in Arizona that had examples like that in Arizona. We can't have this. We cannot have this fraudulent activity inside of our election system. And for all these people that are fighting the lawfare that we're facing, fighting back against that, that's got to end. The American people, the people that are doing that are socialists. The people that are doing that want this country to be a socialist country. The people that want that, they want to change our Constitution. They want to change our Bill of Rights. That's what these those that still watch the mainstream media or read the sound bites on Wikipedia and don't listen to the rise of these. We have a lot of independent journalists out there that are just trying to find out what the truth is. That's all I want. I learned, where's the truth? There's 3 sides to the truth. There's your truth, Nicholas. There's my truth. And I believe what I say. And then there's the actual truth, right? Like you asked me earlier, are we ever going to find all the truth? No, we're never going to find all the truth. we've got to find enough to make the right decisions. You're never going to have on the battlefield 100%. You're going to have at best 80%. And you're going to have to make decisions that are going to place people and organizations and nations at risk. But we've got to be searching for the truth. Don't just listen to one person's soundbite and go, okay, everything about Flynn is bad. Go watch the movie, and they can go to flynnmovie.com and check it out. I mean, then you can tell me because I may start. Now that it's out, I may start telling podcasters, look, you're going to need to go watch the movie before I talk to you about the movie, because then you can kind of, like I already did, like the other day, because I do have some coming up where people have said, hey, I watched the movie, man, I'm blown away. I'd love to do a podcast with you, and I'm like, perfect. You're exactly who I want to talk to, because it's like if I write a book or I write an article and somebody says, well, I want to talk to you about your book. Well, did you read it? And they're like, no. I say, well, okay, when you read it, then call me back. So, we have to be brutally honest with everybody right now, because we're in a tough spot. We're in a moral decline in the United States of America. And if we don't get out of this pit that we're in, we're going to be living in the United Socialist States of America. So anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen a lot of progression. I think it's outside of the UK, outside of the US, in the UK where I am, a lot of people can see how ridiculous Biden is. The whole world, I think, can see it. People are waking up to how great President Trump was. And we can only, talk to friends and family and talk the truth and get involved and get the truth out there. But General Michael Flynn, thank you very much for sharing everything with us today. It's a very big honor to have you. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, never give up. And I want your audience to know that you're not alone. Okay, people are not alone out there. We are together. And people that believe in human rights, people that believe in freedom for all, there's a group of us. There's a large body of people that believe that, and we're not going to give up. We're not, in the DNA of America. So what's in our DNA? It goes back to the American Revolution, right? I mean, so what's in the DNA of every single American, with a few exceptions, is that our strong desire to be free. And that is a very powerful, when we talk about drugs, right? Illicit drugs. Well, the drug of freedom is something that you want to take. And I take it every day.
No, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, General Michael Flynn. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless you.
All right. God bless, Nicholas. Thank you, buddy.